It seems that in the last few hours, there's been behind-the-scenes talk that they're looking for a woman. Is that right, Sakamoto?
Good morning to Tati, first of all. The information is circulating in Brasília that, in fact, Michel and Bolsonaro are reportedly negotiating for Michel to join Flávio Bolsonaro's ticket as his running mate. Of course, over time we have to see. This would mean a ticket with the same last name, right? Pure blood, but pure last name. It would be Bolsonaro for president, Bolsonaro for vice president. Yeah, it seems that Michel would have accepted this. And then, given the negative backlash against Alfredo Gaspar, this information, it would be possible to have this change with the former First Lady Michel Bolsonaro taking Alfredo Gaspar's place. Of course, we still have to wait and see and keep following it, but that's what's happening behind the scenes in Brasília, Fabiola.
I think there are 3 reasons that led to the choice. Well, maybe 4, because of Arthur Lira, right? But 3 reasons they chose him, which are public security, the INSS scandal, and trying to bring in votes from the Northeast. So they put in a representative from Alagoas. But let's go. Alfredo Gaspar is a pretty complicated person, right? There are many cases. He was the Attorney General of the state of Alagoas when that first earthquake happened, because of Salgima's salt mining excavations in the state, which later ended up causing the sinking of 5 neighborhoods in Maceo, and more than 60,000 people had to leave their homes. But what happened in this case? As the Attorney General of the state, the first measure he took when the investigations into the cause of the earthquake began was to put the investigations under seal. So it was already clear who he was going to protect, which was the mining company Braskem. He didn't want anyone to know because there were already indications from geological studies that the problem was indeed the mining, as was later proven beyond doubt. And yesterday I talked to some people from Maceo who were telling me, look, Heloisa, here the rumor is that when he ran for federal deputy, he got 12 million from Braskem to fund his campaign. This was never proven. No one was able to prove it. But his relationship with Braskem seems to have been intense, deep from the beginning when he was a prosecutor. He managed to get his son in the month before he returned to the position of Attorney General. He got his son into the Alagoas government in a deal with Renan Filho, who was the governor at the time. And the case was never treated as nepotism because he wasn't the one in office who made the appointment, but it was still a bit of a complicated situation. Gaspar was also the rapporteur on the matter in the Chamber of Deputies, who tried to dismiss all the accusations against Alexandre Ramagem in the case of the attempted coup on January 8th. He managed to dismiss some of them. There were 5 accusations, and he managed to dismiss 2 because the Supreme Federal Court decided, look at that. Okay, you might even dismiss them, but the things he did after he was elected as a state legislator, as a congressman, because that's the only point when the chamber can take action. Before that, when he was in charge of AB and etc., no, you can't touch that. So Ramagem was in fact convicted, but he wasn't convicted for all the crimes he was accused of, thanks to the work of Alfredo Gaspar. This situation here is also quite complicated, and we have to be careful when talking about it because it's a rape allegation. What happened? At the end of the congressional inquiry into the INSS, Congressman Lindbergh Farias and Senator Soraya Tronic accused. They filed a formal accusation with the court that Alfredo Gaspar may have committed rape against a 13-year-old girl at the time who had a child allegedly fathered by him. So Alfredo Gaspar never took a DNA test for everyone to know whether it was a lie or the truth. The case is the Supreme Federal Court is waiting for a decision from the Attorney General's office to decide whether to move forward with the investigation or not. Everything is on hold. Justice Gilmar Mendez is handling this case in the Supreme Federal Court.
What Nelo decided, in fact, is the famous story. If you don't owe anything, prove it, take the DNA test, settle the matter, and you put an end to it. You're innocent, you don't owe anyone anything, you settle the story.
It was super simple, right?
No, but if he had done it, the story and accusation would have ended there. 30 seconds,
right? Isn't that right, Will? 30 seconds. You do the DNA test, call the press. Look, I'm entering the lab now. I'm going to take the test. Here's the result. That's it. There wouldn't be any problem. So what did he do? He sued Lindbergh and Soraya instead of responding. We'll watch these videos from all that mess in just a bit. It's amnesty for the coup plotters, of course. He became a hardcore Bolsonarist after having been an ally of the MDB and the Calheros family back in Alagoas. He switched over to Lira's side. He became a hardcore Bolsonarist and took part in that occupation of the speaker's dais, which didn't let Hugo Mata sit in the president's chair during that period. So he was there, taking part in all that movement to demand amnesty for the coup plotters. And he also went, and that's when he really made a name for himself and grew among the Bolsonarists, when he was the rapporteur of the INSS Parliamentary Inquiry Commission. And why did we write here useless report? Because he wrote a report of more than 400 pages, asking for the indictment of more than 200 people. That Parliamentary Inquiry Commission, we followed it closely. It completely lost its way. It didn't investigate the cases related to the fraud involving INSS retirees. And of course, it tried to find a way to target people who could get in the way of President Lula's path to re-election. And then, of course, he kept calling for the indictment of President Lula's eldest son, who went there and opened his accounts. Since January, his accounts have been open for the courts to investigate as much as they want, and they never found anything. So, the report from the INSS CPMI was not approved. It was defeated by 19 votes, and all the work he tried to do was for nothing. But there were hours and hours and hours of speeches by Alfredo Gaspar in that CPMI, something unbearable. So there's Alfredo Gaspar being chosen as Flávio's running mate, which goes against the first thing that a lot of people in the party were asking for, including Michelle Bolsonaro, which was for it to be a woman. So even someone here from ICL in our internal group, when Gaspar's name came up, commented, "Wow, what a great woman," right? Because they didn't choose a woman at all. They continue to disregard the role of women within the party. But, as I was saying, it was a choice that also involved the specific case of Alagoas. What's happening in Alagoas? There were 3 names for the Senate: Senator Renan Calheros, Congressman Arthur Lira, and Alfredo Gaspar. The 3 of them were tied in the polls. It was impossible to know who the 2 chosen ones would be. And with this decision, now the way is clear to guarantee a seat for the former Speaker of the House, Congressman Arthur Lira.
Rodrigo, I was doing a rhetorical exercise yesterday, trying to imagine which plan Alfredo Gaspar was. In my mind, plan A was Teresa, the former minister, like Teresa Cristina. Plan B would be a woman from another party. They tried, right? From the PP.
From Republicanos.
Daniela Marques, Clarissa Tércio. Other names. So there's plan A and plan B. Plan C would be a woman from the PL, Julia Zanata, Bia Kicis, Councilwoman Priscila. Costa, Priscila Costa from Fortaleza. We're on plan C, right? Plan D would be a man from another party, also to build a coalition if it had to be with another party. A, B, C, D, E. It seems to me that Alfredo Gaspar wasn't even on the list of plans.
He really wasn't.
He was presented as a candidate for the Senate on, today is Thursday. He was confirmed as a Senate candidate on Tuesday, there in Alagoas, yes. It seems to me that maybe it was the worst possible scenario for Flávio. As for women voters, this doesn't help him at all and still brings in a person who has a series of accusations again. No investigation, just accusations against him. It seems like a very complicated choice to me, right?